about your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Ooh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Another building sold. A former building at 1122 East Midlothian Boulevard was acquired by Acropolis Development LLC for $480,000. Sorry about that. Now, it was acquired from Slim Real Estate Corp company. Now, according to a local report. Now, this story solidifies AMR's exit from Youngstown and will be replaced by the Canton-based Emergency Medical Transport Emergency Services. Now, the AMR had some long run with Youngstown. Now they're gone. Now, Emergency Medical Transports will be in the building. They will be setting a foundation in Youngstown. That's why it's the new foundation. That's why story number 1 crept in this week. Story number 2. YSU's future in the headlines. According to an article published January 28th by The Vindicator, the donations continue to pour in for YSU. This time it's a $5 million is set for Youngstown State University from the founders of Phantom Fireworks, the Zolden family. Now, the money will be used to either renovate Kilcawley Center or build a new student center on campus. Jim Trussell, who is set to step down this month, was also mentioned in the article. That's why story number 2 crept in. Story number 3. Locals preparing for the worst. Story number 3. These days, it seems like everyone is preparing for the worst case scenario. Now, a former school in Poland is being used for police prep. Just for that simple fact, the report published January 29th explains how 15 officers and several trainers from Mahoning, Trumbull, and Columbiana counties are participating. They participated last week in the training just in case something jumps off. Now, this training is in response to recent records being set in America in regards to mass shootings. So they're training just in case there's a terrorist attack or a mass shooting. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. The ARP funds to the rescue. ARP funds and the aftermath of COVID-19 conditions has kept local money in the news. Money talk. Money, 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 money. The Trumbull County Historical Society is hoping to have a completed 2,000 square feet extension with the help of ARP funds. ARP money is all over the place, folks, and COVID-19 rescue money has also been tangled in the fraud loop web also locally. That means people have been doing some fraudulent activity with the COVID money. Now, how this will affect the future remains unknown, but there continues to be so much news surrounding COVID spending stories that speculations on spending continues to make headlines. Some people never to get caught when they're misusing the COVID funds. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Youngstown hires new deputy finance director. Recent reports say that Youngstown took the in-house route after hiring Richard Harvey, who has spent the past 22 years working for its Youngstown's community development agency. Harvey brings a resume filled with finance department qualifications based on his work experience and education, according to finance director Cal Biasek, current finance director. Now, the job has been vacant since March of 2021, according to a local Vindicator report. Now, 5 other candidates applied for the job, but Richard Harvey was the only one to make the cut. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, Valley reps get appointed. Some Valley reps. State Rep Al Catrona, Republican of Canfield, has been appointed to chairman of the House Health Provider Services Committee. And State Rep Mike Loychek, a Republican of Bezetta, has been chosen as chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. The two were appointed by House Speaker Jason Steffens and Republican Kits Hill. Now, Bill Johnson and Dave Joyce also made headlines for being named chairman of House subcommittees also. Bill Johnson, a Republican of Marietta, who represents Mahoning and Columbiana counties, will be appointed chairman of the new House Energy and Commerce Committees, subcommittees on environment, manufacturing, and critical minerals. Now, Joyce, a Republican of Bainbridge, who represents Trumbull County, has been selected as chairman of the House Appropriations Committee's subcommittee on Homeland Security. Now, this is all according to a local report published by the Vindicator. So story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, I am in here for you. If you would have asked me years ago what I've been when I've grown up, I would have never thought that I would be trying to be a superhero by keeping people informed. But that's the hand I was dealt, and I'm going to keep on moving along. If you want to show me some love, it's up to you. If you want to spend some money to keep things going and help me out, that's up to you. But I will continue to choose to do the right thing and keep people informed. Story number 7. Action on local road safety is in the headlines. Roads and road safety continue to be a top concern locally, especially with potholes and damage to vehicles in the headlines. Now, according to a Vindicator report published February 1st, about $260,000 from the U.S. Department of Transportation has been awarded the East Gateway Regional Council of Governments. So I guess that's where the money is coming from. Awarded to the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments. And now, according to the article, the goal is to create a comprehensive safety action plan, with the goal of eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries. Now, safety is only half of this local report. The report also goes on to explain funding from a bipartisan infrastructure law that allocates about $5 billion for the next 5 years when it comes to local roadways and safety and infrastructure. That's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week. We're talking road safety, which is very, very big, critical around this time of year. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you. Ooh, yeah. Hey, moving on up to story number 8. Ooh, yeah. Go on ahead, Brian. Do it. Story number 8. 2 cities with 2 common goals. We're talking about Warren and Youngstown. Youngstown wants to improve lead education. Now, this is after council accepts 2 grants totaling $65,000 to better educate the public about lead and its pipelines. The city spent about $2.26 million last year on a project to replace lead pipes on and near Eddy and Roy Streets and Hazelwood Avenue from its federal American Rescue Plan funding, another ARP funding. Rescue. Now, the city of Warren has also made headlines after $36 million for a school complex made local news January 31st. The local report explains how the Warren City School District will be upgraded with a recreation and wellness center, now locker rooms, band shelter, robotics area, and a medical health area, along with other improvements and cost, to spend money on. So they're going all out in the city of Warren. Now, this is citing 2 cities with the common goals to improve their standard of living for their residents. And they are also trying to focus on increasing the population, which has been decreasing. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're on the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, it is Black History Month, and for some odd reason, everybody is talking about racism. I mean, from the gym to the workroom floor to the radio to the TV set. I mean, it's gotten so bad that people who are not even African American or black are talking about racism. I was at the car lot the other day, and my buddy called me up and said, "Brian, could you come clean the car for me?" My Pakistani friend. And he comes out of the building. Even he's talking about racism. The racism, right? They're just race. I'm like, dog. Did Pakistanians go through slavery? What is the thing you think about, Asians? I guess racism has become a virus, like COVID. It's spread. Pretty soon, Caucasian brothers going to come out and talk about it. They're racist. So this racism thing's got out of control. The only people that seem to be on guard is black folks. And they're the ones that's really saying it. So whatever's going on in the air in America, it's getting wild. I mean, could you imagine Russians? They're talking about racism. I mean, all ethnic groups, Mexicans, all these people living in America. I mean, is America really racist? This is the stuff we got to think about. Who went through slavery? Jewish people? Well, folks, that's our topic for the week. Lesson learned this Black History Month. Black History Month may become for everybody. Everybody. Well, that's my story. Let's get to it, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. The world art sector has been taking a beating. The world art sector keeps making headlines in what appears to be continued cutbacks and downgrades. Now, what got the story in is recent news about Broadway and other performance institutions preparing for the worst. Oldham Coliseum has also made headlines. The historic theater has made BBC headlines for canceling future shows after losing funding. Now, this is the world art sector has continued to take a beating with many institutions that were already in debt. And they're taking on more debt. Some are pushing back in some productions to save their productions, to save money, and some have just closed down, period. The arts has always been an escape for a lot of people, but without money to support the business of performing arts, this story could be gaining some steam. COVID-19 has put a dagger in many art budgets, and that's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2, the big drug experiment. A Canadian province of British Columbia is starting a first-in-the-nation trial. They're going to try decriminalizing small amounts of hard drugs such as cocaine and heroin, according to a BBC report. Now, the report is mind-boggling, allowing a legal number of drugs to be in the possession of adults. Now, according to the report, adults can possess up to 2.5 grams of drugs, including methamphetamines, fentanyl, and morphine. Now, they plan to try the experiment for 3 years. Now, it's important to note that 10,000 residents have died from drug overdoses since British Columbia declared drugs to be a public health emergency in 2016. The article describes life-saving mechanism, describes this as a life-saving mechanism to be the reason why they're going to try this experiment. They think that this can psychologically save some lives. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Good luck with that. Story number 3. Are world children growing up too fast? Big question. Children as young as 9 have been exposed to pornography. Now, this is the topic of discussion in one BBC report. Now, according to a study in England, a quarter of 16 to 21-year-olds first saw pornography on the internet while still at a primary school. That means they were probably in the first elementary school or junior high. Now, 50% said they seen it at age 13. Now, this story highlights yet another natural urge that the world is having a hard time keeping under control, because everyone is eager to talk about and have sex. If they can't talk about it, trust me, studies show that they will find sex themselves and find a way to experiment with it. Now, over the past several years, so many people have been caught in sex sting operations, with many including underage children, that it's become a hot topic, big news. Now, underage children are also being sold into marriages in many countries, if you didn't know that. The story continues to create talking points and debates about what and how to talk to people, especially kids, about sex, when everybody wants a little piece of the action. The huge article published by the BBC goes on to describe situations in which children tried to act out what they were exposed to in pornography. So if you look at the story, it's very, like I said, it's out there. So, but I mean, what do you do? Sex is a need, sometimes it's a want, and sometimes it drives you crazy. You want it, boom, make a head pop off. Story number 3, big B. Story number 4, the Huawei story. Now, apparently, China is concerned about the U.S. clampdown on Huawei. The article, now, if you didn't know, Huawei is a tech company in China. Now, the article begins with China hitting back. Now, according to the Financial Times, the U.S. Commerce Department has notified some companies that it would no longer grant licenses for any company to export American technology to Huawei. Now, more news followed in Bloomberg, according to a CNN business report about this, that officials were considering cutting off Huawei from all U.S. suppliers. Now, this is a difficult story to comprehend due to so many recent news stories about China and the United States relations. U.S. officials have been back and forth arguing how Huawei will possess a risk to U.S. national security, with Huawei on defense denying the accusations. Now, this story first made headlines after Huawei was accused of handing critical tech data over to the Chinese government, causing a number of tech industry supply chains to be affected. That's why story number 4 crept in this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, it is African American History Month, and I was watching some of the videos, getting prepared for the show, of movements, grassroots movements to fight for rights. And I couldn't help but wonder, we always hear the side of the story from the person in front. You like Dr. King, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X. But we never hear about the people that were actually getting beat up or hosed down. And, I couldn't help, I'm watching the footage, and I'm like, brutal. Ooh. And then I couldn't help but wonder, if you're in the middle of this and what is the cameraman doing? Why, if you're sitting in a protests, why are you not helping the victims? You know, waters, I'm drowning, help me. You know, the cameraman at all times did their job. I can help but wonder about some other things too. Like, did they have a marketing team, or were the speeches copywritten? Who's profiting off of the footage? Couldn't help but wonder. Throughout all history, I even went to a museum for African American history some time back. Wondered the same thing. You know, these are the questions that you ask yourself as an African American watching these footage. Are they just conjuring up the crowd just to piss people off? Like, what were the people doing at home who were watching this stuff? Were they frustrated? Were they cooking? Were they out jump roping? These are the questions about the people in the background. The cameramen, the audio crew, the engineers. Big questions. What were they doing while all this history was being made? Another episode of Unsolved Mediator Mysteries. Well, folks, let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Glad I got that off my chest. Understanding the energy debate. Everybody should be recognized for Black History Month. Everybody. Understanding the energy debate, folks. The energy war continues to make headlines, especially as energy costs continue to rise. Now, the push for zero net emissions, it's carbon emissions, they've been having to push back because of these extreme policies to try to get the world back into a better stance pollution-wise or global-wise, climate-wise. Now, the energy war is so bad that it continues to be a problem after the story of Joe Biden's decision to halt the Keystone Oil Pipeline project remains in the headlines. Now, no one knows how this decision would have affected the energy market now, but there's only assumptions or predictions. Now, on the other hand, green projects continue to boost UK growth, bringing jobs and investments, according to a BBC headline. So market watchers and energy investors, along with analysts, are keeping an eye on these stories. They're watching stories like this, especially across the globe, to give people information that need to understand the pros and cons of the energy debate and the energy war taking place. Now, a lot of this information is fueled by the climate change debate. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Big head. Story number 6, oil profits equals top stories. Exxon recorded record profits, thus getting officials in the White House's attention. Now, the company racked in $55.7 billion. That's double from 2021's figures. Now, in one interview, Exxon boss Darren Woods said the White House needed to get its facts straight, though. He went on defense. He also noted that the firm had continued to spend money on oil and gas projects despite pressure from investors and others to shift investments to renewable energy. Now, Exxon has some leverage in this fight here because the company reported its first loss in 2020, but with the oil once again being in high demand, the firm has also stated that they have been working hard to reduce costs. So they said that they're doing their job. No need to get huffy about the profits. You know, we did lose some money here. So the report is extensive and highlights some key debatable talking points when it comes to stats, circumstances, and policies making headlines. That's why story number 6 always made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7, the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made us. Can't get enough of your stories, babe. Oh, I don't know why. Can't get enough of those news stories, babe. Ooh. Barry White, another African American making Black History Month. Story number 7. Story number 7. Oh, wow. Speaking of Black History Month, folks, police on defense again. Woo! Never thought in all my wildest dreams I'd be in the gym lifting weights and see what I saw on the news channel. So the question is why in the world, and why having the world wait for a video of police officers physically beating a man to death and then make it a racial topic of discussion. Why have the world waiting on a video like this, folks? This is the question being asked this Black History Month by not only just blacks, but other Americans, which have not only been waving the conspiracy flag in this, but many other ethnic groups are wondering, what is going on in America? Really? Is there some really conspiracy where there's somebody behind some alien deaths pulling some strings, or we're going to make we're going to do this? But at the end of the day, somebody has lost their life over more chaos and craziness in America. Now, even after Tyree Nichols' death, or after his funeral, the world is left with a video that has so many people scratching their heads about America's justice procedures and system. The aftermath has led more and more major headlines aiming the spotlight, aiming the attention, the highlight, the talking points on why so many people are receiving the death penalty before even being brought to justice. Now, once again, historical research on policing tactics in America are on alert and in the headlines. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top. International headline and developing news story that made it this week. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Welcome to Black History Month, folks. Yeah, what is there to celebrate? We got a lot going on, a lot to be grateful for, but there still seems to be a lot of work to be done. The cost of raising children is still in the headlines. All children in America. Big headline. Families, once again, are on the front lines of a real problem, and that is cost. The cost of raising children is causing parents to borrow and rack up mass amounts of debt just to put food on the table. Now, this story has not only crippled the minority community, but it's seeped into every community. That means all Americans are starting to feel the problem of rising costs. Now, the cost of living has even affected farmers, thus causing food prices to keep rising. It's important to note, especially eggs, it's important to note that a lot of people are pushing back when it comes to spending. Now, the ripple effect of COVID-19 and Putin's war seem to be the blame. USA Today reports that gas prices have jumped for 5 straight weeks and are not likely to drop anytime soon, according to experts. Whew, folks. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator, the man in the middle, navigating the news stories, the media stories, just to keep you informed. I'm navigating underground stories, conspiracy stories, all those stories just for you, folks. If you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or this sponsored program. Folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to The Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.